Welcome back to the People of Penn State podcast. I'm Katie Farnan from the Penn State Alumni Association, and today I'm joined by Drew Magid, a 2011 graduate with a degree in advertising. Drew has spent years on the road as a tour manager representing artists and groups that I think we've all heard of. Then he became a talent agent, and now he's a founding member of a talent management company. We're going to get into all of this today, so let's welcome Drew to the podcast. Hey, Drew.
Hey, Katie. Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks for joining us. So let's start with your Penn State experience. Why did you choose to come to Penn State?
I think being from Pennsylvania and growing up in the Philadelphia suburbs, there's something about Penn State that is kind of instilled in you, whether you know it or not. And so many of the older kids in my high school and neighborhood growing up ended up being Penn State people. And then I think my parents took me to a game sometime when I was in high school, and I was like, this is undeniable where I have to go to college.
Easy sell for you.
Yeah. And then it was really cool too, because both of my little brothers ended up also going to Penn State. I overlapped with one of them, and then my baby brother I missed, but then I had an excuse to go visit, which was amazing.
That's all you need, right? Just one person there to go back and visit.
Totally.
So tell us a little bit about your experiences while you were a student and your work in your major. Absolutely.
So I actually went to Penn State Altoona for my first 2 years. And then when I transferred up to State College campus, I knew that I always wanted to work in music. And so I did everything humanly possible to get involved on the local level there. So I did an internship at the State Theater. I was the vice president of a music club called The Asylum, which I hope is still active. I don't know if it is. I'd love to check in and see if they're still booking shows at Penn State, but I was really involved in both of those places, in addition to being in my own band. Just because I wasn't living in New York or LA, where the big music scenes are, I was just okay, I'm going to make the scene where I live. So we were booking house shows, booking shows with the university, and then my band was playing everywhere.
So after graduation, where did you immediately land?
So right after graduation, I was supposed to intern at a company called Complete Control, and the manager I was going to work for got fired 2 weeks before I was supposed to start. He sent me 3 email addresses of his closest friends in the industry and was like, best of luck. I emailed 3 of them. 2 did not reply. And then the third one was we don't really have anything, but maybe you can come to New York, once or twice a week and get coffee and shred paper. And I was like, I will literally do anything. I was living in my parents' basement. I went up to meet him to do a brief interview. Kind of told him about my past and the band that I was touring in and things like that. And 2 days later, he called me and asked me if I wanted to go on tour with the band OAR, which was really a full circle moment because they played at Penn State Altoona when I was a freshman or sophomore there. And I helped load their gear in. So then having the opportunity to go work for them was insane.
So how are you able to apply some of that advertising background into what you do now?
I think the thing that I really learned in my time in the advertising program at Penn State is just how important it is to be able to reach people. And when I was touring, that wasn't so important because I was doing really specific jobs on the road. But now as an artist manager, everything is about reach and connecting with an audience. And so I think a lot of the experience in classes that I had there, just thinking about creative ways to reach an audience, were probably the most applicable things to what I do right now.
So once your career kind of kicked off, you were on the road living in a lot of different vehicles. Can you tell us a little bit about what life is like when you are literally living on the road?
Yeah, I was really fortunate to do it towards the end of my time on the road at the highest level. And then starting out really on the lowest level. My first proper full US tour was in a miniature school bus towing a U-Haul trailer. Most nights we didn't have money to stay in hotels, and we were sleeping on bunks that we made that were stacked on top of each other inside the bus. And then towards the end of my time on tour, when I was working with Imagine Dragons or Florida Georgia Line, we were pretty much flying on private jets everywhere we went. So I really got to see both sides of the business, which I think is important for doing what I do now too, because we manage a lot of artists that are developing, and not everyone is on a 12 bus, 10 semi truck tour. And in order to break acts, you have to know what the infrastructure looks like from the ground level, and then also be able to understand what it looks like as they start to develop and can sell tickets.
So when you were a tour manager, what did kind of the day in the life look like for you living on the road?
Yeah, I think the most exciting part about it was that no day was ever the same. There was a different problem every single day just because there were so many moving pieces. For example, with Imagine Dragons, we were on tour in South America. And while we were in South America for 3 or 4 weeks, I was also simultaneously trying to get our visas done for our shows in Russia for 60 people. So it was just very complex logistically. And then I think it's just a constant state of change when you're moving that many people and that much gear around the world. Like, something is going to go awry no matter how much you plan. So I think what it really taught me is that when the building's burning, how to compose yourself. Because if you crack under those moments, you're going to not do well in that job.
So then you became an artist manager after being a tour manager. Tell us a little bit about that transition and then what your day in the life looked like in that.
Yeah, well, I think that my goal was always to be an artist manager, but an opportunity to like start a career out of college led me to the touring aspect. And again, I'm like really thankful for that time, because I say this humbly, a lot of managers haven't spent as much time on the road as I have, and we ask our acts to be on the road a lot. So I think when I ask them to do certain things or put them on certain tours, I understand what they're physically, mentally, emotionally going through to, do a one-off show in Des Moines, Iowa, or do a one-off show in Prince Edward Islands in Canada, and like how logistically complicated and how tired they're going to be. But I think the thing that was always frustrating about being a tour manager was never really understanding the bigger picture as to why we're doing things. And I consider myself a creative person and someone that really loves music. So now as an artist manager, to be part of the conversation as it pertains to like a marketing rollout for new music and like how the touring is going to coincide with it and what the merchandise is going to look like has been really fun. To think holistically about the entire operation and not so much like, hey, Drew, here's the 60 dates we're doing, make it happen and within the budget. That's the biggest difference.
And you work with some pretty big names throughout your entire career. What's it like to kind of be in the presence of these people that everybody's talking about, everybody's listening to? People are, flocking to different areas of the world to see their concerts. What's it like to be part of that experience?
Man, I mean, I'm just so fortunate because a lot of the acts that I got to work with were such amazing people. And the one that I just would love to highlight would be my time with Imagine Dragons. Just for as big of a band as they are, they're so involved with philanthropy and like their Tyler Robinson Foundation for pediatric cancer, and Dan, the singer's advocacy for the LGBTQ community. So it was really cool to see people that have all this money, all this fame, and be so passionate about philanthropy. And that's not always the case with a lot of acts. So I always really admired that about them. And then just really treating them like human beings and trying to be 2 or 3 steps ahead of them so that they didn't have to worry about anything except going on stage and having a great show. And that was kind of my job.
And then in 2020, you moved to Big Loud Management. Tell us a little bit about that jump and then kind of the acts that you took on from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I stopped working for Imagine Dragons in 2019 and started working for the country band Florida Georgia Line, which was incredible because I was based in Nashville, and the way they tour is more on like a weekend warrior basis. So we would leave Wednesday night, do a show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, home Sunday. And that sounds hectic, but comparatively to being, in Asia for a month or Europe for 2 months, it kind of was like the most normal that I'd ever felt in my adult life. And I was really enjoying that. So in addition to being their tour manager, I was also their day-to-day manager. They made a change with their management company. And when that happened, that company, Big Loud, offered me a job to get off the road. And that was kind of, my eye had always been on that prize. And so when it came up, I was like, I absolutely had to do that. The first act that I managed at Big Loud was an artist named Bren Joy, who at the time was signed to Warner. And it was just such an amazing learning experience to, go from just being hyper-focused on touring and logistics to literally everything else, like so deep in A&R. And then it was also a crazy time because the pandemic hit a month and a half after I started. And I think even the most seasoned managers were trying to figure out how we do this job. So it was a blessing and a curse in some ways that I'd gotten off the road when the live business completely shut down, but in a curse that like we all were at home and didn't really know what to do or how to market our acts.
So what did that look like then during the pandemic? Like, how did your job kind of shift, and how were the entertainment industry, how did it shift in general?
Well, I think we had to really like double down our understanding of digital. And now like even the best artists that can write the most amazing songs and have such an incredible stage presence and voice and all these things, if you can't reach your audience, none of those things necessarily matter. They have to coincide with one another. So I think during the pandemic, we all just became students of Instagram, and then TikTok really blew up at the time. And I'm glad that we're kind of back in a place where it's somewhere in the middle, where it's, there was a moment where labels were only signing artists that were exploding on those platforms. And I think we're getting back to a place of like real artist development, which is important. But in that, in the traditional sense of artist development, like developing the live show, developing the brand, the songs, all these things, but also simultaneously while doing that, like trying to find the best way to connect with your audience. And that is on social media, because I mean, anyone that's, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, 12 years old up, are all on these platforms. And I think we need to be thinking of creative ways to connect really great music with the audience. And this is a way to do it.
Yeah, and everybody's on TikTok now, right? So you have to kind of capitalize on it while you have it.
Absolutely. But I also think it's important that, we try to have our artists like remain authentic while on those platforms. Like, not every act is like going to make a dance on TikTok for a song to go viral. But there's so many different ways that we can get creative that's not like all that we have to do.
Which is a whole brand new concept essentially, right? Like that wasn't a thing a couple of years ago, but now it's just a whole new world.
Yeah. And like, and nothing I work on is like kind of in like the TikTok dance space, and nothing against that, but I think we are still coming up with creative ways to reach audience and find out like where our pockets of culture are and how we can tie the music to the things that they're associated with.
So you now work with track management, and you're one of the founding members. How did that come about?
Yeah. So I think Seth England, who is CEO, president of Big Loud, has been such an amazing mentor of mine, and just a friend. He runs Big Loud Records, Big Loud Publishing, and at the time, Big Loud Management. And I think he really wanted to just put his focus on the record label, understandably so, because of all the success they've had with Morgan Wallen and Hardy and Ernest and all these amazing acts that they have, where Tracker and I love being artist managers. And I think when Seth had kind of expressed that he really wanted to focus on the label, we were like, we want to be managers. And Tracker and having Hardy being able to establish the brand that is Track Management, he's been my best friend for the past 5 or 6 years. So it was an absolute no-brainer. And I think it's a really cool ethos that our company has, because of the 7 employees and the 3 of which that are managers, we all come from a touring background. And I think there's this kind of like camaraderie that we share in that, and an understanding for one another. And I think being able to combine like our vast touring knowledge and like our really well-equipped digital team makes us a really unique option for artists in Nashville, or anywhere for that matter.
So who are some of the artists that you're working with now at Track Management?
Yeah, so directly, the 2 artists I manage are Dallas Smith, who's a Canadian singer, country singer, and then Tracker and I also manage a brand new artist named McCoy Moore, who we just got a record deal with Sony Nashville, which has been crazy. And I guess to kind of take a step backwards too, I also manage a producer named JT Daly with Mac Reynolds, who manages Imagine Dragons. And I've been doing that with him since 2018. And he's co-written and produced songs for everyone from like Demi Lovato to Benson Boone. It's been really cool to be able to manage a producer, writer, and then also have artists too, because it's very different sides of my brain. And I enjoy very much doing both.
And you were actually recognized with an award for your work. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of how it feels to have that recognition, doing what you love.
Yeah, that was really crazy. I think it was 2018 or 19. There's an event every year called Live Production Summit, and it's like a touring conference. And I got recognized as the Young Gun Tour Manager of the Year. I still don't exactly know how that all came to be, but I was just completely blown away to be recognized when I got the Imagine Dragons job, it was such a big deal to me. I mean, and honestly, everyone else that they had been interviewing had, decades more experience than I did. And I think what I brought to the table was a willingness to do whatever it took to make sure the job got done. And it was really cool to have my peers across the industry recognize that. And I'm very proud of that. And that award sits on my shelf and always will. It was a really cool moment. And unfortunately, I wasn't there when I got the nod, but still really, really cool, special thing.
It deserves to be on the shelf. It's where it belongs, right?
Yeah, totally.
So your career in all levels has kind of been a very 24/7, you kind of have to be working around the clock. How do you maintain a good work-life balance in that kind of a situation?
It's honestly really difficult, and something that I work on every day, especially because my wife and I had our first baby like almost 11 months ago. And I think in the past 11 months, that's been like the most clear I've been about work boundaries, especially when I get home from the office, around 5 until he goes to bed at 7. Unless there is like an absolute work emergency, it's like I am full-time dad in that moment and making sure that I'm getting as much time with our son, Jack, as humanly possible. And especially on the weekends too, like I'm kind of constantly monitoring what's coming in. And I think pre-Jack, I would be quick to respond in the exact moment. And now, I'm kind of always monitoring because you have to be, but unless it requires an immediate response, I'm waiting until he's down for a nap. And then also making sure that I'm prioritizing, as much time with my wife as possible too. She's a real estate agent. It's funny, our jobs are so similar, except her turnover with clients is a lot faster, obviously. But I also think part of the reason why I had success, especially right out of college, was my willingness to just put my head down and do the work. And I think it's really important to be all in on whatever you need to be all in on, but never letting, I miss a lot of birthdays, funerals, weddings, and things that now in my 20s, I look back and I have some regret on. So I think just knowing where to draw the line is really important. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at that because you don't get that time back. But circumstantially, like, I think it was my dad's 60th birthday. I was in Amsterdam and going to Russia, and I was going to maybe fly back to New Jersey for like half a day, but if my flight got delayed, and, I'll always think about that, not being there. It's really tough in my line of work, to be totally honest with you.
I can imagine. Yeah. People constantly need you, right? Tours they're constantly happening. So there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. So I think making the most of the moments that you are there, and then also like with your family, just trying to be the best communicator possible about when you're going to be gone and when you're going to be home and things like that.
Great advice.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of work in philanthropy. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I produce a concert called Country vs. Cancer, which is we had our first one in 2023, and we're in the process of planning it right now. And it's an evening that benefits the American Cancer Society. I wish I could share a little bit more on the one that is coming up this year because it's going to be insane. But my sister-in-law, Abby, is a cancer survivor, and I've lost family members, and it's just, I think, the worst thing ever. And when I got connected to the American Cancer Society, I was like really thinking about what I do professionally. And I don't want to say it's unimportant, but it's the music business. And I felt like it was really important for me to give back in a different way, but while taking the resources that I have and that most people love music, and like, okay, how can we tie something that people love with something that's really painful for a lot of people to help raise money and awareness? And I think the unique opportunity that we have with the American Cancer Society is that they don't have a lot of artists that are willing to talk about cancer on their socials because it's a depressing downer thing, but it's also something that affects everybody. And so in addition to the concert that we produce, we also got all the acts to do a lot of content for the American Cancer Society. And I was really proud that we raised $85,000, and I was talking to them after the event, and they were like, that part's great. We're not saying that part's not amazing, but what really blew them away was the artists' willingness to participate in social media around their initiatives. And so it was really cool that I could marry what I do with something that is a huge problem and something I think affects all of us. And then another philanthropy that I've just been really involved with is called KultureCity, and it's been a couple years, but I got introduced to them when I was working for Imagine Dragons, and it's helping make events more inclusive for people that have, any type of sensory issue, whether you have a child with autism or you're a vet with PTSD or you're suffering from dementia. Like, to me, live events are the most important thing to bring us together. Like, in a time that's, we live in you watch the news, it's kind of a crazy time to be alive. And it would be really sad to me if a family couldn't bring their kids to a show and not have a safe place for them if someone with a sensory issue was having a little bit too much going on. So with KultureCity, like in every arena in the United States, they have like a sensory inclusive room. So you can go, you can like take a break with your family, and then once things calm back down, go back out. So I did a full Ironman a couple years ago and raised money for them, and did a charity boxing event where I raised money for them. And they're just the most amazing people. And again, I just love that what they do gets to tie with what I love so much, which is music.
That is really cool. When can we find the lineup for your concert so that our listeners know to go check it out?
It'll be hopefully announced in September. The headlining act is massive, and it's so unbelievably cool that he is passionate about this as the ACS is, and that he wants to give his time. And the exciting part is that he's such a prominent person in Nashville. He's really leaning into his community of artists. So when we can announce the lineup, it's going to be top notch at a very cool brand new venue in Nashville. And I think it's going to be even bigger and better than the last one.
Lots of hints here, people.
Yeah.
All right. So lastly, any advice that you have for somebody who's kind of looking to get into this field? Maybe they are just kind of starting their college journey, or maybe they have just recently graduated and they kind of want to end up where you are. What advice would you share with them?
Yeah, I think I'm like so fortunate that it feels like almost weekly I meet someone, whether it's a friend of the family or someone in the Penn State community that reaches out that like wants to get into the music business. And I think the number one thing I can recommend to anyone interested is like get immersed in what is happening in the industry. If you want to get into country music, sign up for the Country Aircheck email list, sign up for Zach Kuhn's The Nashville Briefing, like read about like what executives are moving around and what artists are signing where, follow playlists on Spotify with whatever genre that you're interested in. Like the first thing I do when I wake up on Friday morning is I open up Spotify and Apple Music, and I'm like, okay, New Music Friday, what just came out? And I think just trying to have like an understanding of like every genre of music and what's going on at all times is super important for new people, because when you're getting interviews right out of college, I think in an ideal world, you're going to get a job at, whatever company it is that you want, working for XYZ artist that you want in whatever role. But realistically, it's not going to be that exact perfect role right off the bat. So I think being flexible and like being willing to get your foot in the door. So it's like, if you want to be a manager, but you have an entry-level marketing job at a label, like that's a really cool way in. Or if you want to be a manager and you have an opportunity to go on tour, that's a really cool way in. So I think letting people know exactly what you want to do is important, but also being open to other opportunities that are adjacent.
Great advice for anybody in any field, honestly. Get your foot in the door and figure it out from there.
Yeah. I mean, like I was setting up an environmental awareness program on OAR's tour right out of college. And that was like the furthest thing from what I thought was going to happen the day after I graduated.
Right.
And it turned into, it snowballed into this most amazing thing, and like lifelong friendships and professional relationships and all these things. And so I think if I would have been like, no, I really want to be a manager, no, thank you. I can't imagine what my life would look like right now.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we like to wrap things up with a quick little lightning round of some Penn State related questions. So are you ready?
I'm going to do so bad at this. Yeah.
Your favorite flavor at the Creamery?
Oh gosh, chocolate peanut butter.
That was an easy one, see?
Yeah.
What was your favorite and still is your favorite Penn State sport? Which one are you buying tickets to first?
Football, easily.
Your favorite class and or professor when you were here?
Ron Smith.
What did he teach?
I honestly don't remember.
He had the great personality.
No, I knew his Professor Ron, and like him and I have stayed in touch a little bit. I actually went up and spoke to one of his classes like 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but he was amazing.
This is your sign to check back in.
Yes, I'm absolutely going to after this.
Once you were at the University Park campus, what was your favorite local restaurant to hit up late night studying or on a weekend?
Oh gosh, favorite. This is a lame answer, but I love Pita Pit, and then like Canyon Pizza because like
historically you have
yeah,
to.
that's still there, right?
Yes. Yep.
That would be a tragedy.
With the ranch bucket and all, it's all still
it would
there.
not. I mean, it's not very good, but it does the job.
And last question: who would be your dream Penn State dinner guest?
Dream Penn State dinner guest. I mean, Saquon Barkley.
Same. That's probably our most popular answer, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good year to be an Eagles fan,
right?
And I have so many friends that are Giants fans, so like there's friends that are Chiefs fans. So right now it's pretty awesome. Yeah. So
and you're a Philly guy, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Doylestown, like an hour outside the city.
I'm from Lehigh Valley, so not far away.
Yep, I got family out there too.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a very great conversation, and I hope that our listeners got some great advice for you to get into that music world.
Thanks for having me. Really, really honored to be here.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you to Drew for joining us today. And to our listeners, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Special thanks to our guest relations coordinator, Abrielle Clark, and our graphic designer, Gabrielle Harris, for their work on this episode. For more information about the Alumni Association, visit alumni.psu.edu. We are.